Hello friends, now we are going to discuss about the erection mechanism. Erection is basically initiated by dilation of the arterioles, of the penis. As the arterioles get dilated, more blood will come to arteriole, and this will lead to the filling of the erectile tissue of the penis with blood. As erectile tissue of the penis get filled with blood, and filling of this erectile tissue will compress the veins, and once veins are compressed, then the outflow of the blood from the penis will get stopped, because artery carries the blood towards the organ and veins carry blood away from the organ, so the returning blood get stopped. So it compresses the veins and blocking outflow of the blood from the penis. This is the basic mechanism of the erection, and how it occurs we are going to discuss that. So first, input from CNS will come, and it will stimulate parasympathetic division of autonomic nervous system, and these parasympathetic nerves basically from sacral plexus innervate arteries supplying erectile tissue, as we have discussed the dilation of arterioles present in the erectile tissue. So these parasympathetic nerves innervate the arterioles which are supplying the erectile tissue, and on stimulation of this parasympathetic nerve, they will discharge acetylcholine, and in some cases also vasoactive intestinal polypeptide, which I have not mentioned here, vasoactive intestinal polypeptide. Once acetylcholine is released, it will bind to its receptor present on the endothelial cells of the blood vessels, and then on binding to the endothelial cell, it will release some amount of NO, which is nitric oxide, from endothelial cells. Acetylcholine will bind to receptors on endothelial cell, which leads to the release of NO from endothelial cell. And how NO is released from endothelial cell, we are going to discuss that. Now coming to that part, this is acetylcholine is binding to the receptors present on the endothelial cells. It will lead to the activation of basically one enzyme that is known as NO synthase. What it will do, it will convert arginine into NO and citrulline. Citrulline is also, but here we are focusing on mainly on NO, nitric oxide. So arginine will convert into nitric oxide by enzyme NO synthase, and this NO will diffuse to the smooth muscle of the arteries. And after diffusing to a smooth muscle of arteries, it will lead to the activation of guanylyl cyclase present there. And once guanylyl cyclase will activate, what it will do, it will convert GTP into cyclic GMP, and once cyclic GMP is activated, it will lead to the activation of myosin light chain phosphatase, which is present in smooth muscle, myosin light chain phosphatase. And once phosphatase is activated, it will remove phosphorus from the myosin light chain, which causes relaxation of the smooth muscle, as we have discussed in smooth muscle physiology. And once the smooth muscle relax, it will lead to the vasodilation, and then filling of arteries will occur, and which will compress the veins, and compression of veins will be occurring by mainly corpora cavernosa. So this is all about the mechanism of the vasodilation. Once again revising: acetylcholine binding to receptor, NO synthase activation, which will convert arginine into NO. NO will diffuse to smooth muscles, then activation of guanylyl cyclase, CGMP, activation of myosin light chain phosphatase, which will lead to the relaxation of a smooth muscle, causing vasodilation, filling of arteries, and compression of veins by corpora cavernosa. Now moving to its applied part. One more point I have left here, so first discussing that point. Here is that point, that the integrating center in the lumbar segment of a spinal cord. And the CNS is sending impulses, fibers to the lumbar segment of the spinal cord. So I have written integrating centers in the lumbar segment of a spinal cord are activated by impulses from genitalia or from cortex. Now moving to the next slide, the clinical part of the erection. We often use drugs Sildenafil, Tadalafil, and Vardenafil. It all inhibits the breakdown of CGMP by phosphodiesterase, as we know that CGMP is broken down by phosphodiesterase. So these all drugs will inhibit phosphodiesterase, prolonging the life of CGMP, and as the life of CGMP will increase, it will lead more activation of myosin light chain phosphatase, which will lead to the relaxation of smooth muscle, which will lead to the erection. So it helps in treatment of erectile dysfunction. Okay, sildenafil, tadalafil and vardenafil. Now coming to one more important point, these all drugs mainly affect phosphodiesterase 5 because phosphodiesterase has many isoenzymes forms, and one of these is phosphodiesterase 5. So these drugs mainly inhibit phosphodiesterase 5, but in sometimes it also causes inhibition of phosphodiesterase 6, and this phosphodiesterase 6 is present in retina. So if phosphodiesterase 6 is inhibited, which is present in retina, this leads to loss of ability to discriminate blue and green. Okay, so this is a one problem which will be associated while using these drugs. Okay, this is a drawback of